Welcome to part 2 of the recap for our On the Sea D&D campaign. It was a low-level naval campaign chronicling the adventures of the Golden Tusk Pirates as they transported the One Army to the Kingdom of Dova for war. Ian played the swashbuckling rogue Prince. Brett played the Hexblade Warlock Rolan. And Kevin played the monk Vekni. Sometime in the year 6380, the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet arrived at the port of Lunaris in Moonronia, where they were supposed to pick up some mercenaries and adventurers recruited to the war against Vigor. Captain Golden Tusk sent his interim first mate, Vekni, and a new conscripted soldier, Prince, to disembark Tuskheart and travel into the port city to find the recruits. Teclis, Captain Golden Tusk's actual first mate, was currently on a mission elsewhere. Vekni and Prince walked a short distance from the docks to their meeting place with the recruits at the Doddering Mongrel Tavern. After entering, Vekni stood in the bar and loudly made the announcement that she was there for 1 recruits. She boldly stated the fleet would be leaving Moonronia in 1 hour. After her announcement, Vekni realized that the bar happened to be full of Moonronian soldiers, and they appeared quite displeased with Vekni's announcement. Unbeknownst to Vekni, Moonronia was on the cusp of joining the war and officially declaring for Vigor against 1. While in the Doddering Mongrel Tavern, Vekni met and shared a drink with a woman who called herself Kant. Kant was a human woman with a futuristic-looking pink metal contraption over her right eye. She was dressed very fancily, but her face was not comely or attractive. Kant was with an older man with a heavily scarred face and a thin mustache. He had a very long, thin sword at his side. Kant mentioned his name, which was Longclaw. Vekni met one of the new recruits joining the war, Rolan Hardham. Rolan was a half-elf, Hexblade Warlock PC, played by Brett. While speaking to him, Vekni said that he reminded her of someone she never knew. Prince noticed officers from his ex-pirate crew, the Misfit Bastards, in the bar, and he attempted to sink away from them, but he was noticed. The Misfit Bastards in the crew were all officers. There was a red tiefling with a shit-eating grin. He was the first mate of the Bastard Sire and the cook for the crew, Dos Flacos. He seemed to also recognize Vekni. There was Danny, a red dragonborn, who appeared very angry and loud. He was volatile and challenged Rolan to an arm wrestling match. Rolan crushed him in the match and afterwards called him a bitch. There was also Smokey, an Aarakocra who was puffing on a pipe. Smoke emanated from the pipe and was sweet-smelling. Smokey seemed like a very laid-back type of dude. Another Misfit Bastards officer was Keko Snow, a Kenku wearing red robes. He was very quiet and stared icily at Prince. While looking for somewhere to sit, Rolan, Vekni, and Prince got into a disagreement with a group of pirates. Prince killed one of them with his greatsword, while Rolan charmed another, who was an orc named Ahmed, and convinced him to join the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet for the time being. After the tussle with the pirates was over, the Moonronian soldiers had enough of Vekni and her group in the bar. The soldiers drew their swords and demanded the party left the tavern. The PCs obliged and left, returning to the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet flagship, Tuskheart, with Rolan, Ahmed, and a small group of recruits that no one spoke with. Shortly after arriving on Tuskheart, Prince manipulated the charmed Ahmed into removing one of his own teeth. Rolan met some of the passengers and crew of Tuskheart, including Golden Tusk, the Loxodon captain of the fleet, Mackie, an oarsman, Holden, a conscripted 1 soldier, very talented with daggers. He wore a brown cloak and was a prisoner freed from the Frostfire dungeons alongside Prince when he was recruited. There was Sins, a 1 captain from Nude's castle in the Oon Lowlands. He was very cocky and arrogant and had pink hair. Sins' complexion was pale, and he had a very dainty way about him in demeanor. And there was Tadazanki, a hulking 1 soldier from the Oon Highlands. He wore white animal skins over his white and black armor. He had a big, bushy beard as well. While on Tuskheart, the PCs learned of a terrible stomach bug that was putting the Tuskheart officers out of commission and unable to perform their duties. New interim officers were agreed upon after Golden Tusk ran off to the privy in a hurry to relieve himself. Before leaving, Golden Tusk explained where the fleet would be traveling, and he spoke of the first mate Teclis, who was missing. Teclis was sent on a mission to the island of Jatir, and that would be a pit stop for the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet before they traveled to Dova to drop off the soldiers. After some discussion, the interim officer positions were decided upon. Vekni would take up the position of interim captain. Sins would take up the position as interim first mate. Holden will become the quartermaster. Tadazanki, the surgeon. Rolan, the head cook. And Prince would be the boatswain. After the charm spell on Ahmed ended, he was offered a job on the ship, but he appeared very unhappy with Prince. Vekni paid him 1 gold for his troubles, and he walked away, presumably leaving the ship. As the days passed on, Prince quickly became fed up with the lazy and arrogant nature of Sins. As Tuskheart traveled through the sea, an Aarakocra was seen flying in the distance. Prince quickly recognized the Aarakocra as Smokey, one of the Misfit Bastards' officers, and someone that they had met briefly in the Doddering Mongrel Tavern. A short time later, Prince also observed the Bastard Sire in the distance, sailing straight towards them. Smokey landed on Tuskheart and threatened the crew. He threatened the officers, advising them that they should throw Prince overboard. He said that if they didn't listen, the Misfit Bastards would attack, and the Golden Tusk Pirates were at their weakest. Vekni ordered the archers aboard Tuskheart to kill Smokey, but he flew away and managed to escape after taking a few arrows in the back. Vekni and the crew realized that the Bastard Sire could be a threat and a thorn on their sides, so they made the decision to push forward and attack the Bastard Sire before it could escape. A battle ensued. Small boats departed from the Bastard Sire, approaching Tuskheart. The Golden Tusk Fleet and the Bastard Sire fired upon each other, and a naval battle endured on. Some of the small boats from the Bastard Sire reached the Golden Tusk flagship. Pirates from the boats attempted to board. One of the men, Ice Slayer, a hobgoblin and officer, was captured, but not before demonstrating great strength, killing some of the crew of the Tuskheart. Eventually, the Bastard Sire officers realized that they were completely outmatched against the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet. The Bastard Sire crew attempted to flee, but the ship's sails and oars were destroyed and the ship catched aflame. The occupants aboard the Bastard Sire raised a white flag. 2 additional small boats departed from the Bastard Sire and approached Tuskheart with white flags raised. A small group of pirates surrendered to the Golden Tusk crew. Among them were 2 officers, a creepy Wanti, Mulbrax, and a stoic Duragar, Coldbrow Stone Pounder. The prisoners were locked in the brig while repairs were made to Tuskheart. Meanwhile, the Bastard Sire continued to burn. Later that night, Golden Tusk pirates and 1 soldiers approached the Bastard Sire. Apparently, the other Bastard Sire officers and most of the crew escaped in small boats, using the black smoke of the burning ship as cover. A few pirates stayed behind with dynamite, planning to trap and kill Golden Tusk men with a giant explosion. But these pirates that were left behind were killed in a hail of arrows, and the Bastard Sire was commandeered by the Golden Tusk Fleet. In the days following the battle, Sins took much of the credit for the victory over the Misfit Bastards. Prince told Vekni and Rolan more about the other Misfit Bastards officers. There were those that the PCs already met in the Doddering Mongrel Tavern. Dos Flacos, the Red Tiefling, First Mate, and Cook. There was Smokey, the Aarakocra, with a laid-back personality who often scouted for the crew. Danny, a raging red dragonborn, angry and extremely volatile. the one that lost to Rolan in the arm wrestling match. Keko Snow, a very sneaky and cold Kenku. He tended to fly under the radar and attack when least expected to. And there was also Ice Slayer, the hobgoblin that showed great strength after boarding Tuskheart. He was over-emotional and would constantly moan and whine about everything. The other two officers that were captured that surrendered, Coldbrow Stonepounder, the stoic quiet Duragar, and Molbrax, a creepy and ominous Wanti. On top of those officers, there were some others as well. There was Dr. Bunnykins, a Tabaxi doctor of the ship. Salviel, a half-elf who was older and heavily scarred. He was a bounty hunter before becoming a pirate. He was all about business and making money. And the captain of the Bastard Sire, Radalak, a Minotaur. Radalak led the mutiny that killed the former captain and Prince's adoptive father, Mundo. Prince was given command of the Bastard Sire, with Tadzonki and Sins serving as officers under him. Prince began to hear rumors and get descriptions of a man that wanted to work for him. The man was supposed to be waiting for Prince in the hold at night, but he never showed up. Throughout the voyage, Prince would constantly hear rumors about this man and get more and more descriptions of him. Coldbrow was given limited freedom at night to perform boat-swaying duties, as he was the best shipwright on the Bastard Sire. Molbrax was released from the brig under the supervision of Tadzonki to capture and consume the rats plaguing Tuskheart. After solving the rat problem, Molbrax was lodged back in the brig, but was treated kindly. The rest of the captured Misfit Bastard pirates were released from the brig after swearing themselves to Captain Golden Tusk. The voyage continued, and Vekni noticed that the Un Highlanders and Un Lowlanders did not get along. She spoke with both groups and made headway in bringing them together. Rolan, in his capacity as cook, brewed a couple popular drinks for the crew: Tusk Brew Ale and Nectar of the Sea. A young tiefling stowaway was captured and placed in the brig. He only spoke Abyssal, but Rolan could understand him with one of his spells, Comprehend Languages. The boy appeared mad, speaking in gibberish about freeing someone called Lusago, and warning Rolan not to let a prisoner on the ship. The red tiefling stated, "Don't let the prisoner on the ship." He stated, "He's with the octopus," and he stated Lusago must go to Dova. And he said these things over and over again. Rolan later returned to the brig and secretly freed the tiefling, allowing him to hide elsewhere on the ship. Kant and Longclaw approached Tuskheart on a small boat. They boarded and spoke with the officers. They gave the crew some supplies, then departed. While unloading the supplies, a Golden Tusk pirate uncovered a letter that must have been meant for the officers to find. It read, "Dear Captain Golden Tusk and Un soldiers, greetings to you all. The author of this letter is the woman you just spoke with, Kant. I regret to inform you I deceived you all. I serve Queen Rhaena and the Kingdom of Moonronia. I am the Queen's royal spymaster, Contusion. The Queen dispatched myself and others to gather intel on troop transports heading for Dova. My kingdom has officially declared for the Fury Lords of Vigor and against King One. I humbly request you turn back around and return the Un soldiers you are transporting back to their homeland. Grand Admiral Gamino and the Royal Moonronian Fleet are nearby. If you refuse to turn around, Admiral Gamino will sink all of your vessels and you will die. Afterwards, we will blockade the Hollanka Sea to the south of Un. No vessels will be permitted to pass until the war's end. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Contusion, Royal Spymaster of Moonronia." The Tuskheart crew fretted about what to do, worried about facing the entire Moonronia armada. On the same day, the Golden Tusk pirates recovered a letter from one of the Bastard Sire officers. To Captain Radalak, I thank you for following the directive handed down from His Majesty, King Dokkan Swiftwater of Ferelden. Captain Mundo had repeatedly refused our kingdom's gold in exchange for sinking the drow slaver ships out of Harganeth. Our king is pleased you took over the Bastard Sire and eliminated Mundo for us. With you in charge of the Misfit Bastards, the king is confident the vile drow will struggle to dominate the seas near Thaddeus, nor will they easily enslave tieflings from Breams and free people elsewhere. One more thing. I looked into that woman, the one Queen Marathi put the enormous bounty on, Marjorie Sharpeye. She was a noble from the fallen kingdom of Coldbank, and was last seen at Cutthroat's docks with a merchant ship, the Denebola. Marjorie was seen there with the captain of the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet. Perhaps this captain will know where to find her. Sincerely, Sir Duncan, Royal Ferelden Spymaster. Mask 28th, 6379. Mulbrax, who handed the Golden Tusk Pirates this letter, spoke about the big bounty on Marjorie Sharpeye. He mentioned that Radalac was traveling to a secret settlement in Epona's Bog, called the Doghouse, to collect a reward from King Dokkan for killing Mundo. The Doghouse was said to be a mellow, neutral place of peace, where violence was not permitted. After that, his plan was to travel to Cutthroat's docks, to speak with an elf that knew a lot about Marjorie. His name was Gontiel, and he was the captain of the merchant vessel, the Denebola. The crew learned a little bit more about this woman named Marjorie. She was one of the last survivors of a genocide that took place in Coldbank 25 years ago. She was away from the city when the genocide occurred, and was able to survive. Colbrow explained Dos Flacos had learned Gontiel, merchant captain of the Denebola, could be found in Dova, and he knew where to find Marjorie Sharpeye, the elven woman with a 500,000 gold bounty on her head. Colbrow stated Radalac and his men would seek him out after the meeting with Dokkan. In the days following the battle with the Bastard Sire, Prince's demeanor changed. He became much less of a goofball, and more bloodthirsty and dark than he was before. As time passed, Rolan continued to remind Vekni of someone she never knew. Rolan and Vekni grew quite close. Vekni also grew close to Prince, and considered both boys to be adoptive sons to her, in a way. Sins continued to take credit for the battle with the Bastard Sire. The Golden Tusk Pirates and the One Soldiers began to consider Sins to be quite the hero. Ice Slayer explained his role in the Bastard Sire to Rolan. He was in charge of executing prisoners after Dos Flacos flayed and tortured them. Ice Slayer displayed an annoying, naggy, obnoxious personality. He showed no honor and proudly talked of how he murdered the innocent. Mulbrax appeared deceptive and sneaky. He also prided himself in the murder of innocents. Colbrow seemed stoic but honorable, still holding allegiance to Radalac. Ice Slayer had injuries from the battle with the Tuskheart crew. Tedzonki was sent to treat Ice Slayer, as he still had ballista bolts stuck in his body. Tedzonki treated him roughly, causing Ice Slayer to pass out from the pain. The Golden Tusk fleet entered into a terrible storm, but the officers were brave and performed well, ordering the crew and tying the ships together to protect them. Prince promoted Tedzonki to Master-at-Arms of the Bastard Sire, and Sins to First Mate. On Tuskheart, Colbrow officially took over as the boatswain. Rolan became the new First Mate, and the old surgeon, Thaddeus, took back his surgeon role, now that he was feeling better. The ship was crewed with a smaller number of Golden Tusk Pirates and Oon Highlanders. Dodosius, a Golden Tusk Pirate, recovered Mulbrax's spear from the sea, shortly after he surrendered. Dodosius had been hiding it, but Vekni interrogated him and he handed it over to her. She found the weapon possessed magical properties. The next day, Rolan assisted Thaddeus in the medical bay, operating on a man with gangrene. Rolan was unable to save the man and he passed away from his illness. The Golden Tusk fleet came to an area in the Hollanka Sea, littered with smashed ships, and the wreckage went on for miles. Flags found at the wreckage were determined to belong to Tartea, a pirate crew called the Wolves, and the Kingdom of Moonronia. The party eventually learned that there was a naval battle here. It was the Moonronians versus the Tarteans and the Wolves. The Moonronians won, but there were great losses on both sides. Prince began to manipulate the Highlanders on the Bastard Sire, turning them against Sins. As the fleet continued to traverse the wreckage of the naval battle, they found a mysterious ship floating in the sea. The ship was investigated and it was found to be a ghost ship belonging to the deceased Captain Steelgrave and the Steelgrave Pirates. Aboard the ghost ship, the party learned that Mundo's son was killed by Bjorn Skytaker, Prince's father, in a duel. Mundo's son, Piney, planned to become the greatest swordsman in the world. After hearing of his son's death, Munde spent a year tracking Bjorn. Sir Duncan, Spymaster of Ferelden, told Mundo that Bjorn was being harbored on a pirate ship belonging to Captain Herbert Steelgrave. Mundo tracked down Steelgrave, where Dos Flacos and Ice Slayer tortured him and his crew. Before their deaths, Mundo came to believe he was lied to by Duncan and Doken. Mundo returned to Ferelden to seek vengeance. Before confronting Doken, he met a young boy, Chauncey, who reminded him of his dead son Piney. Mundo abandoned his quest for revenge and acted as Chauncey's father. Eventually, Sir Duncan and King Doken demanded Mundo sink Hargoneth slaver ships. When he refused, Sir Duncan convinced the rest of the Misfit bastard crew to mutiny, telling them Chauncey was actually Bjorn's son, the child of the man who brought them so much woe. Bjorn had a scar on his face and chest. A small satchel was attached to the hilt of his greatsword, and it was said he could be found in Dova, serving the group called Vigor. Steelgrave spoke to the party of Salviel and his strange ability that allowed him to steal the souls of those that the Misfit bastards killed, and then use those souls to empower him and the other officers. Ice Slayer was retrieved from Tuskheart and brought onto Steelgrave's ship, where Prince executed him in front of the pirate ghost. Prince collected one of his fingers and wore it around his neck as a necklace. Much later, Captain Golden Tusk chastised Vekni for the execution, forgoing the trial process that his fleet used for prisoners. He also asked Vekni to do what she could to temper the darkness in Prince's heart. Later, Coldbrow and Vekni spoke for a time, coming to a mutual understanding and respect for one another due to their loyalty to their captains. The next day, the Tuskheart armory was robbed of weapons and the lock was found picked. The following letter was recovered. Orders from Forte Branch. Karagonda is displeased with the invaders arriving in Dova. Day after day, we are flooded with new threats. We are already dealing with rebels, insurrectionists, and usurpers in the fringe as it is. We have learned the bulk of these new invaders are being ferried by the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet. They pick up their new arrivals from various ports, but I have recently uncovered intel on their movements from one of the Un soldiers. He is a very minor captain out of Nude's castle. He will be on the Golden Tusk flagship, but don't expect him to aid you. Just know he easily betrayed his allies for a small bribe. The Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet will be picking up adventurers, bounty hunters, and mercenaries from the Doddering Mongrel Tavern in Lunaris. The fleet does not keep records on who they are picking up, so I'd like you to join them and infiltrate their flagship. Stay with them and gather intel for Karagonda, as he will be the warrior driving one from our kingdom. Now, of course, if an opportunity arises to sabotage their voyage, be sure to take action. We have alerted the Moonronians, but they have not yet agreed to join us in the war. Hopefully they will act while the Golden Tusk Pirate Fleet is docked in Lunaris, and the invaders will lose their main mode of transport. Assume they won't decide in time and do as you are bid. For Vigor. Edgar Brazil, Supreme Strategist of Forte. While searching for the missing weapons, Vekni located the missing tiefling boy and brought him to Captain Golden Tusk in his quarters. Vekni and Rolan attempted to interrogate the tiefling. Only Rolan could understand the tiefling's abyssal words, and Vekni began to suspect Rolan was being deceitful about what the tiefling was saying. Sometime later, a woman was spotted floating on debris in the middle of the sea. Vekni set down ropes to pull her in. But as she pulled the woman up, Vekni noticed that the woman had black eyes and appeared to be a hostile creature of some kind, and not actually a mortal woman. Vekni cut the rope and the creature fell into the sea.